Welcome everyone to the future of tech sales, leadership, growth, and innovation. Today we have with us Justin J, the founder and CEO of Beautiful Savage Sales Academy. Justin has had an incredible journey that spans over a decade in B2B tech sales, working his way from adversity to becoming one of the top CROs of the tech industry. With this extensive experience, he's had he scaled startups. He's been a leader at Salesforce, uh, got startups to scale to nine-figure exits, coached people. He's an expert, needless to say. Justin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Right. Jumping right in, right? So what motivated you to start your sales academy? And how's your journey influence your approach to leadership and sales growth?
I mean, the reason why I started it is because after being 4 or 5 times sales leader in the tech sales space, being at big companies like Salesforce, all the way down to smaller companies, I realized the system is fundamentally broken. And there's a reason why, 2/3 of people that work in software sales, they're not hitting goal. And fundamentally, they're being set up for failure unintentionally most of the time. And even worse, the leaders that are there to support them, they're not getting set up for success either. So it's this brutal, vicious cycle that ultimately leads to reps, not making the type of money they want to make, not being happy with their career. And I think the number is like 30 to 40% of sales teams turn over every year. So after I kept seeing that time and time again, and simply when I was a sales leader, I just kept providing the type of coaching that I wanted when I was a rep, which I didn't really get. And my reps loved it and they thrived and they did very well. I just realized that, okay, this is something that the market needs because, I want to impact lives. I want to help people, live life on their terms. And I wasn't going to be able to impact the number of lives that I wanted to as a tech sales leader. I was a CRO. I had a great run, but I want to help a lot of people. And when I figured that out, I wanted to help a lot of people. The question was like, how do I do that? What's my mechanism? I realized my superpower is coaching and developing and helping reps just execute their role better. And what better place to start than where I know firsthand just how broken the system is. So that's why I did it. How has it influenced my approach? My approach has always been really simple. All I want to provide to sales reps, whether you're an enterprise rep selling in the Fortune 500, all the way down to you're an SDR, as well as a frontline leader, all the way up to a founder of a tech startup. All I want to provide you is the type of coaching and guidance that I would want. So it's not just, high level strategy, which is great, but strategy without, training is useless because, they could say, hey, you need to improve your discovery if you're going to be a great sales rep. All right, that's great. A thought. Well, then there's training. Well, here's what great strategy or here's what great discovery looks like. That's great. But training without coaching, which is let's walk the walk, let's role play. Let me listen to your calls. Let me give you feedback. And then we rinse and repeat. Like there's a big difference between like strategy all the way down to where the rubber meets the road. So that's all I simply try to provide. Nothing more, nothing less. And if companies were doing what they should be doing, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Right. I'm simply doing it because it's a need in the market.
So super interesting. Why do you think the system is broken and what makes it broken?
It's not, I think, I know it. I lived it. I've seen it. Right. When it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's most likely a duck. Right.
Right.
And when I saw it time and time again, all right, there's enough data points that clearly says this isn't working. This isn't just my experience. Only a third of sales reps in software sales are hitting quota. That's another data point. 30 to 40% of sales reps turn over year after year. Another data point, right? And the numbers speak for themselves. Like there's a reason why my academy is growing extremely fast because people are struggling. And the reason why, I said this a minute ago, but just to reiterate, it's not by intention. Someone said to me earlier in my career, and I love this phrase, the path to hell is paved with the best of intentions.
Yep.
So I don't think people have bad intent. I think people just don't know what they don't know. And that starts with, the leaders all the way down to the frontline leaders, the managers, you're down to the reps. So it's like the blind leading the blind a little bit in a lot of these situations. So that's what's really stemming it. So my whole goal is to help it. My mission is actually to help 100,000 people live life on their terms. That's what I'm running at. And just trying to help where I can.
That's beautiful. Can you talk to us about like what are the common mistakes you see in the systems today? Like which can be easily like low hanging fruits. Uh, Leadership can fix it. It's lying in front, it's staring them in the face, and they're just not looking at it, right? Like what are the common pitfalls for like which CROs or other leaders are making today?
Yeah. And number one is not leading with data, letting data tell you what's working and what's not. Number two, it's not keeping the solution simple. And then number three, trying to throw tech to solve the problem. Okay. If you've ever seen the commercial for, that it's like an infomercial product where he just like slaps on some like sticky stuff to cover like a leaking bucket. That's what a lot of companies try to do when the reps aren't performing. Their solution is, well, we need to buy more tech. We need to increase our tech stack, right? And all the tech companies are saying, of course, increase your tech stack because they selfishly want them to buy more tech. But me just giving you a tech to automate something that you weren't good at in the first place isn't going to solve the problem, right? So you got to get clear in the data. Don't assume tech's going to solve it because most likely the missing component is you got to get in the trenches with your reps and just coach and got to be relentless with it. And it's never going to, and it should never stop. It's got to be built into the fabric of your DNA because that's how you build a high performance org. And I have a methodology around how I do that in a systematic way. I'm happy to go a layer deeper if you want. But fundamentally, that's what I see is like the problems that's leading to this.
No, would love to get deeper into that, Justin. So can you walk us through some frameworks, how you're doing
Yeah.
it, why it's different? Because everyone says, right, like my coaching program is the best. Why should
Yeah.
people believe?
Well, it's not even about mine being the best, right? I think there's a lot of great coaches out there. And when I meet with people that are interested in my academy, the first thing I tell them is, look, I'm not for everybody. And that's totally okay. Right. I don't try to force anything on anybody. So this is not a Justin J commercial. This is the framework that I use to develop my reps, both as a sales leader and now as a coach, has been extremely effective. And the framework is tell, show, observe, coach, repeat. I'll break that down. Tell. I have to tell you what good looks like. So let's use discovery as an example. A great discovery starts with your ability to actively listen, asking layering questions, focusing on talking about the business versus product and features, making sure you're trying to figure out what the business win is, as well as the technical win, as well as the personal win. All right, that's an example of like what a tell is. I'm telling you what good looks like. Then it's a show. Hey, I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So I'm going to walk the walk and I'm going to show you what good looks like. We'll either role play or I'll be the seller, you be the buyer, or I'll give you an example of calls recorded that I did already. Right, but I'm going to show you what good looks like. Okay. Tell, then show. Then I'm going to observe you. Okay. I'm going to watch you do it. And then after I watch you do it, I'm going to give you feedback. Now, here's where so many systems are broken with these companies is they'll watch their reps, listen to their gong calls or whatever it is. And they give the reps a bunch of feedback and they'll say, well, you did this okay, but we got to improve the land question here. Didn't ask about this feature, didn't ask about that business priority, didn't ask about these, this. And they'll give them like 8 data points of things to improve. Okay. The reality is, to get better in sales, all you're doing is implementing better skills. That's all it is. Excellence is built one talk track at a time. So to implement better skills, you have to build better habits. And better habits simply mean that bad habits got to die, and that takes time. So let's say you give me those 8 data points of feedback. Okay, so that's the observe and coach. Well, then the most important thing, and this is where companies drop the ball, is they don't repeat. Because it could take months for me to learn this skill, right? And that's why, when I was leading a team, we would run training sessions where we would spend hours just focusing on the first 5 minutes of a discovery call. And that's it. How you frame the conversation, how you tee it up, how you make sure the meeting's productive from the first 5 minutes. Because if you can't nail the first 5 minutes, the other 55 minutes of that hour is pointless, right? And everyone just tries to boil the ocean because everyone needs results yesterday. And because they try to boil the ocean, the reps are getting thrown in a bunch of different directions. Nothing gets implemented. No habits really get stuck. And then a year from now, we're right back where we are today. So that's why I got to tell you what good looks like. Walk the walk. I got to watch you do it. I got to give you feedback of both. What are the things you did well? What's the progress I'm seeing you make? Even if you didn't do it that great, the fact that you're trying it is step one. And then the areas you need to improve. And then we repeat and we repeat and we keep going, and it never stops. It never stops. And I would do that. I would focus on one skill at a time. Whatever that skill gap is for that rep, and that's where the data helps me identify what that is. I focus my time and energy and attention on that. Hey, if my team's really struggling at booking calls from their cold calls, okay? Well, we're only going to spend the month of October or even Q4 for all I care, only focusing on the last 3 minutes of a cold call conversation. That's it, right? If that's what the data tells me, right? And we're going to get ruthless with it until we close the hatch on that problem, and then we move to the next thing, right? So it's a simple framework, very simple, not easy because it requires you do not get shiny object syndrome, requires a lot of discipline and dedication and focus. Like, that's what moves the needle. That's it. And if you do that, the reps will love you for it, because love is spelled Time. Spend time with your reps and you coach them, you be ruthless with it, and they'll run through a wall for you.
Very interesting. Justin, how do you scale this? Like, you're one single person, and typically with consulting, right? Like, it's like, hey, I want Justin, but the moment Justin trains other trainers, they're not the same, right? So it's almost like that. Like, how do you scale to 100,000 people?
This is where I need systems and frameworks to support that. So, like, step one, let's say, first, let's say if I'm running a company, then I would say, let's say my coaching consulting business, because if there's a sales leader watching this or a founder watching this, they're going to be asking themselves, all right, well, how do I do this for my team first? Because that's how you build it scalable and sustainable. So step one is you lead by example with your reps. You live the framework. You do that. And you tell the reps what you're doing. We're not trying to hide it. This is the framework. This is what we do. And we never stop. We build systems around it. Okay. Then as the team grows, then you bring in leadership and you train leadership with that framework to get them comfortable using that framework. Right. And then that continues to scale from there. So that's how you do it internally at the company. And the way I do it with my coaching and consulting organization, it's very similar. We just hired a full-time coach that's certified by me. And in order for them to be certified, they have to know this framework backwards and forwards, right? They have to know how to execute this, right? So we do that. And then also, we have mechanisms and scripts and templates and frameworks to help reps implement this faster so that they're not coming up with these ideas from scratch. Because it's one thing for me to poke a hole and do how you do discovery. It's another thing for me to say, here's the holes, here's the fast track to improve it using this framework. And then if you can empower the reps with their own ability to grade their own cold calls, grade their own discovery calls, grade their own demos, if you can empower them with those types of tools, then they become unstoppable. And that's how you scale this thing.
Got it. Got it. No, that makes it's almost like, it rings a bell. There's an obvious question, which is like, hey, like all these high performing teams, sports teams, like football, basketball, everyone, right? Even the best players have a coach. But when you look at this, it's like the CRO or like, the leadership at different times would not have the have the time to coach you. So it's almost like, should organizations have like a permanent coach on the sales side?
I firmly believe yes. So if Tom Brady, the GOAT,
Yeah.
invested his own money in a coach, you should be doing that, right? This is the difference between an employee mindset and a CEO mindset. It doesn't matter if you're a W-2 employee or you're an entrepreneur. You should have a CEO mindset. In a CEO mindset, you need to be aggressive in investing in yourself. One of the best things I ever did, I stumbled into coaching myself. And I was reluctant to do it, but my mindset was, all right, well, if the best of the best executives, the best of the best business people that I respect and admire, if they all invest in coaches, okay, there's something to it. So then I did it, and it was the best thing that ever happened in my career. And now I have a budget, that I allocate every year towards developing myself in some way, shape, or form. Right. So what I would say to a rep or an individual is the last thing you should do is wait for your company to develop you, because your company will never, and I repeat, never develop you as fast as you want to get developed. Even the reps that I coached that worked for me, I said point blank to them, I won't be able to develop you as fast as you want to get developed. So I'm going to do everything I can, but don't wait on me. You should be doing your own things as well. Right. So my advice for any individual is allocate 5 to 10% of your income, just like you would allocate 5 to 10% towards like investing in a 401k or whatever, into developing and growing yourself. You should never stop growing. That's the one side. From the company side, the answer is emphatically yes. Right. Instead of having people that are enablement, I think you need coaches on top of enablement. I think enablement's great to help with understanding what's going on with the product, updates, marketing, how to communicate, those types of things. But in terms of like executing the role at a high level, you should be paying top dollar to hire someone who is an elite sales professional to come in and do this. And think about this. If someone's elite in selling, if someone's an elite leader, right, they're not going to be cheap, right? So let's say an enablement person's 150K, give or take, right? If you hire someone, let's say it's an elite person to coach your org, and let's say they're $1 million a year, okay? Which if you're going to hire someone, that's great. It's going to be at least $500,000 a year, if not more, to be a full-time coach for organization, if they're really that good. Well, let's say you have 20 reps, right? And their 20 reps quota is, let's say $1 million. Well, $20 million in revenue. Okay. Well, if that coach does their job, you're easily going to get 5, 10, 15x return on investment, even more by having that person on their staff. Right. And I firmly believe, like, ultimately that's the smart companies. You're the ones that are already looking forward to like hiring folks like me and other external coaches and consultants. They understand the need for this, right? But the really aggressive ones, proactive ones, they understand that, all right, I gotta hire a full-time Justin, because hiring a full-time Justin is going to be the best case scenario for me to really hit my growth numbers long term.
Right. And Justin, you worked at Salesforce, right? It's like obviously the largest beast in martech, right? And Mark Benioff is like one of the best salespersons out there. Uh, Companies spend 30 to 40% of their revenues on sales and marketing. If the budgets are so high, why would those like large organizations like Salesforce, who are like a sales machinery, not deploy coaches?
Because they assume that frontline leaders should be doing all the coaching. And number one, to know how to coach well is a skill. So you have to learn how to do that. And most leaders are never actually taught how to coach. Okay. So they're not good coaches. Number two, when you're at a big company like Salesforce, if you're a frontline leader, you're spending so much of your time just helping your reps execute deals. So the only coaching that you get from me as your leader is helping you execute the deal that's 6 inches in front of our face. We're not taking a step back and holistically looking at how to help you execute at a high level as a sales professional. So the coaching that I do get, if I get any at all, is purely about how can I get this deal that's we're working on across the finish line, right? So, but the companies make the mistake of assuming, well, we have frontline leaders who coach them, and we have enablement that do training for them. They should be good, but the reality is they're not.
Right. Interesting. And you're saying if if the if the people are getting the right coaching, they can be exponentially better,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting. And so, a quick question, right? Like now with AI coming in, I think AI is going to replace a lot of people, right? Like you don't need SDRs. You don't need at some level 70% of AE's works will all get automated. Uh, how do you respond to that?
AI is here to stay. AI is not going anywhere. We're a ways away from an AI replacing a sales professional fully. There's a phrase that's commonly said, you're not going to get replaced by AI. You're going to get replaced by someone who knows how to use AI.
Yeah.
Right. So the way to think about AI is help you, streamline the parts of your role that don't require like that intuitive thinking. The questions that I always think about for myself and things that I coach my clients on is what can I automate? What can I delegate? Or what can I eliminate? Right. And the AI can help you in some of those areas, because what it ultimately comes down to is productivity. Okay. The average rep, I think Salesforce did a study of like their state of the union for the sales report. It's like the average sales rep only spends a third of their time actually doing revenue generating activities. Okay.
Yep.
And think about how ridiculous that is. Right. These are 6-figure earners that are spending 2/3 of their time not doing the thing that you're paying them to do. Right. It's ridiculous. So the first win that I see AI really helping with is if we can move that needle where a sales rep is doing 2/3 of their time or 3/4 of their time doing revenue generating activities, right? That's massive win, right? And the way they do that is find the things that are necessary evils but tedious or time consuming. I like to say they just eat clock. What are the things that you could just give me time back to help me get that hour back that I would spend prepping for a forecast call? Give me that hour back.
Yep.
So that I could be doing outreach, so that I could be with clients, right? Those are the types of things.
Yep, makes sense. And when you're coaching, right, like there's a different, like almost like a DNA for the 0 to 1, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 plus, right?
Yep.
Uh, can you talk us through, like, can you, like, sorry, walk us through the same thing, saying you've scaled companies, like help startups go to 9 figures, and you've had companies like Salesforce on billions of dollars of revenue and then growing from there. What's the difference? And how do you like adjust your coaching accordingly?
0 to 1 is figuring out what we have.
Right.
Okay. 1 to 10 is dialing in the economics. 10 plus should be scaling effectively. But that's ultimately what it comes down to. 0 to 1, you're doing a lot of things like figuring out, what's the niche in your industry that you serve best? Who are the buyer personas that you align best with? What's your unique selling proposition? To ultimately figure out who's your ideal customer profile, your ICP, right? That's like 0 to 1, and even in the 1 to 10 range, right? That's where we're really dialing in there. And then, when you get past the 1 to 2 mark, that's when you're starting to get systems, try to get repeatable with what you're doing, and repeatable systems, repeatable frameworks, so that you can improve the economics around not only on client acquisition, but also client retention. Because it doesn't matter if you acquire clients if you're not retaining them,
Yeah.
right? So getting the economics figured out for the business so that you're in a place where you just pour gasoline on the fire, right? And then, when you're getting to 8, 10 plus, then when you think about systems and frameworks, it's really like scaling the people and making sure the systems and frameworks scale with the people. Because the reason why most companies never hit never hit 9 figures in revenue is because they do a great job and they have a core team that gets them to 5, 10, even 20 million in revenue. And those are all the people that are bought into the culture and what we're building here. But then after that place, like, it's no longer a sexy little startup, right? Now it's a scaling organization, and you're bringing in more and more people that are more doing it less for the mission and more for themselves. So because of that, you have to be more and more ruthless around the systems and frameworks to make sure they have it ingrained at people that are 3 levels removed from the CEO at this point, right? And that's why companies struggle. So it's just higher level of discipline to make sure the systems and frameworks and what worked when we were younger at a larger level, and then continuing to never stop seeking and implementing feedback both from your external customers and your internal customers, which are your employees.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to keep the last few minutes, Justin, to talk about your journey, right? Like you mentioned, you have had 2 near-death experiences before the age of 11, which made you the person you are today. Can you like share a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah. So I almost died at birth, and then I almost died again when I was 10 years old. I've had 34 surgeries, and it gave me a very unique perspective on just how fragile life is. Most people really don't start to internalize their mortality, until they're much later in life, right? Everyone understands that you're going to die, but you don't like really grasp it until your health starts to decline, right? For most people. And because I was blessed with that situation at a young age, which of course was brutal, I went through hell and back. I just have a very unique perspective around that. And because I have that unique perspective, it's a big part of what fuels me, because my mission in life is really just to die with the gas tank on empty. And that's it, right? Where when I was younger and things like before, like that never crossed my mind. But now I genuinely understand just how short life is, and it can be gone in an instant. And I just want to know that whenever it's my time, whether it's tomorrow or 50 years from now, I just want to know that I did everything I could, and wherever I land. So that's a little bit like how it shaped me.
Right. And how does that translate into day-to-day changes in how you live your life? Just curious.
It's big thing for me is just a sense of urgency. I just have urgency around everything that I do because I know I don't have time. Like the whole concept of like, you got time, you'll figure it out. I don't believe that, because you don't really have time, right? You don't. You never know when it's your time. It's like, why would you push something off that you can get done today? Right? Life's short. You're never going to regret the risks that you took. You're always going to wonder what if on the things that you didn't. So that's how it shapes me.
Well, I know we are on time and you have to push off, but lovely talking to you, Justin. I'm sure people would love this conversation and look forward to keeping in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love what you guys are doing and building over there. let me know how I can help in any way. And then, of course, anyone who's listening, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat.
Great. Thanks, Nate.
Ciao, ciao.